So that roll.
I don't know what to say though, but okay. Okay.
So we got a new PC here.
Yes, and then we're gonna do some very special project with this PC. So this PC is made out of ADATA stuff as much as possible. So the case is XPG Defender Pro. I need to read the names, it's right beside there. The power supply is Core Reactor 850 Go. Then AIO cooler.
Levante 240.
Yeah, and then there's one more box there which is the PCIe 8-pin cables with RGB lights.
Yes.
Technically, it's kind of like a sleeve on top.
Not a fan, but people who likes RGB will definitely look into this kind of products.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna release 12-volt high power cable with this kind of RGB as well, but that's a story for another day. So in today's video, what we're gonna do is to give him some time. This guy, he's actually one of our
team member.
and also one of the rare people who do memory overclocking. And today
rare,
what we have here is the rare in Malaysia at least. So introduce the RAM please.
We tested the RGB version, the XPG Lancer RGB. This is the non-RGB, so it's obviously XPG Lancer.
So we're gonna give him some time to overclock the RAM to see how much he can push. Of course within a time limit. The SSD that we're using is also by ADATA. What's the SSD again?
The Legend 850 Lite.
Yes, and by the time this video is up, we should have the review for the Legend 960 Max. You can read it at the top right corner there.
Yeah. Comes
with a heatsink, so it's good. And we don't need the heatsink for this motherboard because this is the MSI
Z690 Unify X.
Yeah, and the reason why we're doing memory overclocking is because he said this motherboard is fantastic for overclocking purposes.
It is.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing today. So when you buy a new PC, what you have to do is to make sure you are running the RAM at the supposed speeds that they are advertising because it's all XMP. Anything above JEDEC specs is considered overclocking, right?
Yes, technically it is.
Yeah, so if you buy a RAM with XMP, for example, this ADATA RAM, XPG RAM here, it says 56 megahertz, correct?
No,
6,000. 6,000 megahertz. Mega transfers per second, more like. So when you plug it in, it won't run at that speed. So remember to...
By default, it will not run at that speed. So a lot of people, they still forgot to turn on the XMP or you call it enable XMP.
So how do you do that? Every motherboard manufacturer will vary.
It will be different. So it's actually very easy. The only thing you need to do is know how to get into the BIOS. Usually they will show it on the BIOS screen when you start the PC, which most of the time it's the delete button.
Like this one, they just tell you profile XMP and EXPO.
Some motherboards, they will show you the easy menu. Then if you want to do more, you have to go into the advanced menu. Like this one, you have to press F7, then you get into the advanced menu. And of course, because XMP is technically overclocking, at MSI, you go to the OC tab, and should I use mouse?
You can.
Saying it's still very slow. So the thing you can do is go to the menu, look for the memory part, there, DRAM settings. I don't know why there's an EXPO here, but
yeah, this is an Intel motherboard.
Okay, since it's disabled, you go with enable, and that's it. Some they will have multiple profiles, but for this one, because there's only one profile, when you enable it, it automatically goes to the default profile.
Yeah, this is safe inside your RAM. It's easier for this motherboard if you can just click at the top left corner there, XMP EXPO. That works.
Oh yes?
Yeah, some motherboard will have two profiles, that's why there's 1 and 2 there. Usually profile 1 will be slower than profile 2, is it? Or the other way around?
Depends on how they put the profile into the memory.
Okay, so you have to explore a bit. So for his way of overclocking, he will use the included profile first, then overclock from there. Is that correct?
Yes, because for DDR5 right now, a lot of the manufacturers, they actually go for the safe route, which is why you can see CL40 there. And you can actually go lower. And by lowering the latency from 40 to something lower, will actually help with gaming performance most of the time. So after enabling the XMP, of course, you can save first, see if it boots. Sometimes some motherboards don't really support it properly.
If that doesn't work, then you have to increase your DRAM voltage.
No. You don't just go and increase the voltage first. You can start from the lower one, then increase the frequency gradually based on the default voltage.
So you just make the same voltage first.
Yes, go with the low one first. So after you're able to get it running stable there, that's it. If it's not stable, only then you increase by a little.
Okay, so we can see the thing booted up, no problems with XMP.
So one thing for you to like see if it's running at the supposed speed. You don't have to download CPU-Z. It's actually here written on your task manager.
But you cannot see the latency here. So
latency wise, you can go with the Intel memory latency checker. You can download it from their website, or you can use ADATA 64. But as of now, I think Intel memory latency checker is the most accurate one, and a lot of people are actually using that.
Okay.
So by default, if you are using something like ADATA 64, you'll probably see the latency hovering somewhere around 80 to 83 nanoseconds NS. So you can actually lower that. Obviously, you have to like tune the timings, which at most cases, a lot of people think it's too complicated, but it's actually not.
Okay, please show us Sifu.
What's the next step?
Okay, what's the next step? You restart.
Okay, so now back to BIOS.
Okay,
what
so
we gonna
now
do?
back to BIOS. There's actually some ways for you to kind of cheat your way there. Because for some motherboards, let's say for this Z690 Unify X, it's actually, I would call it the affordable enthusiast grade motherboard for people who want to do memory overclock. So for motherboard at this tier, a lot of time they will actually have a billion preset.
Okay.
So here, you actually have this thing called Memory Try It. They have a list of presets for you.
Okay.
And if you look at the preset, it actually has what we are targeting for the most basic one, which is 6000, same frequency, but lower latency at CL30. CL28 is possible, but it really depends on how powerful your memory controller is, which is actually a silicon lottery.
Yeah, that one is dependent on your luck when you buy your CPU. Then maybe you get a good IMC, maybe not. So totally up to RNG gods.
Yes. So at this point, we can go in and see the timings here.
What is lucky mode?
We won't talk about that right now because it's a bit deeper there. But here you can see, oh yes, if you've been doing DDR4 previously, one is possible but not on all motherboards. So here you can actually see command rate at 1 and real 1. So the easiest way for you to get through is to go with just 2. You can go with 1, but I cannot guarantee it will work all the time. So the safest way for you to do is go with 2 first. And if everything runs stable, you can try your luck by going with real 1 if you're on MSI motherboard.
What's the difference between 1 and real 1?
Okay, real 1 is the true, according to people who are using the Z690 Unify X, real 1 is the true 1T command rate. Whereas for the 1, it's not exactly the 1T we're looking for.
So it's more like 1 point something.
It's like a loser command rate.
Okay.
Still close to 1, but it's not exactly at 1. And here we can see that your TRFC, setting it to default, will be somewhere around 400. But because this is assuming it's most of the memory right now is on Hynix, your TRFC should be able to go 280.
Oh.
But if you don't want to go too low, you can go with 300 first. And of course, TRAS 77 is what they give you. And if you want to lower it, you have to increase the voltage, obviously. But 77, it depends. If you really need that extra better latency, you can lower it. Some they go 54. For me, I'll try 28. Some people will ask, how is this even possible? Yes, it's actually doable, but it totally depends on your memory controller.
Okay.
So we won't go that first. I'll go with 54. And of course, a refresh interval, 4x window, okay. So for this part, it really depends on what kind of benchmark you're doing. So a lot of people, they will stop right at the primary timings. But if you want to go a bit more, your 4x window, sometimes people can actually go with 8. But because of, no, 8 is wrong, sorry. Your 4x window is supposed to go 4 times as your CCD. So as of now, we haven't seen how it runs first. So we set everything on the secondary to auto and try to boot and see if we can get the system to post.
Just now when you hit F10, there's a summary of what settings has been changed.
Oh yes.
So usually, I don't know if you still do it. Last time you said you got an Excel sheet for all the timings and stuff.
Used to have that, but nowadays, after you've gotten used to it, you kind of have the base preset in mind.
Base preset. Wait, I go get chair. No, I see this.
Okay. Posting. Okay, so we managed to get back into the BIOS.
Did it boot?
Obviously.
Okay. Oh, so you set CL30, the what main try it, and it works.
Yes. Sometimes it won't work, especially when you go for really high frequencies.
Okay.
But nowadays, because 6000 is still, I'll call it, the easy to achieve sweet spot for a lot of users. So going with the 6000 CL30 is actually very easy to achieve. Don't be afraid to try overclocking your memory. It's not that hard. It will not burn as long as you don't go crazy with the voltage. And of course, even if the voltage go a bit too high, BIOS will just stop you. It's so advanced nowadays, unlike what we have back in the days.
Yes.
So after we managed to get back into the BIOS, you can actually see what's going on here. Even though some of the values are actually on auto, you can see voltages is at 1.35. So technically, if you're going with the MEM-Triad 6000 CL30, this voltage will stay stable for most of the time. And if it's not stable, you just raise the voltage by a little bit. You don't go with, like, if it's 1.35, you go 1.4, 1.45. No, you don't go that high. You go by, let's say, if you want to increase, I'll probably go with like 1.38. See if it works. Like default is 1.35 right now. Some they will go 3.6.
Very small increment.
You can go with very small increment and see if it runs stable. So it actually affects, by increasing your voltage, it affects the temperature as well. And for DDR5, based on what I've tested in the past, if you're doing stress test and the temperature gets beyond about 64, 65, you start getting errors. So by getting errors means the system is not stable. Though it's actually caused by the temperature. So sometimes people, they will actually go extra mile to cool their memory with water cooling. And of course, like those world record, they'll go even with liquid nitrogens. That's not the thing we want to achieve for daily use, of course. For daily use, you can either go with a fan blowing at it. If you remember back in the days, we have DRAM coolers. Because how voltage is being distributed on DDR5 right now is not like DDR4 where it's done on the motherboard then to the memory. Now it's like things goes to the memory first, then it decides, oh, I need this. It will distribute it on the module itself, so it's different. Of course, we can go with 3.6. And then, here's one thing. You have VDD2. VDD2 on MSI is actually their memory controller voltage. Then, system agent. As of now, 1.25 is actually very high for DDR6000, DDR5 6000 CL30. Because from my test, I managed to get 0.86 something instead of what it shows here, which is 1.25. So we can try with 0.9 first. And VDD2, you can try to go a bit lower. It's 1.3, so we can go with 1.26 or 1.27 just to keep the temperature under control if it's ever go a bit too high. Then we go back to the DRAM timing. Here you can see when it holds at this timing, you're able to see the timings is slightly different than what we've seen. This is what the system gave us. Because a lot of time, if you don't set it manually, the system BIOS itself will will automatically estimate and adjust for you where it will get the best value it can, which is the most stable based on what is determined by your BIOS. So here, a lot of times people just ignore. But TRTP, some can go until 8, but some motherboards don't allow, like this scenario we're seeing right here. It only allows you to go until 12. Some other motherboards I've seen also lock you at 12. Some, they can go low till 8 something. Anything lower than 8, haven't tried before. For me, anything lower than 8 is undoable. So the lowest you can go with is 8, but because they kind of lock it at 12, so I assume they treat 12 as the safe spot. Then for here, your 4-act window. Here we can see there's some they have TRRD, STRRDL, but because they do it like TRD and TRDL, so we can just like treat it as S, short and long. So here by default it gave us 8 to 15, and you can actually go with, some people they go with very tight one, which is 4.4, or you can just go with 4.6 or 4.7. Safe one we can try with 7. Then once we have our RRD done, like I said, your 4-act window is based on your short RRD. So 4 times of it is 16. But as you go higher on the frequencies, your forward window value will have to change. Sometimes it can go about 24, 23, depends on the settings. So as long as you manage to get it running stable through the stress test, it's fine. If not, you have to adjust things from here. So here are the simple one first. Of course, to get better benchmark scores, we can change the refresh interval to this, or some you can go with very high ones. I just go like this, it will give you the highest.
What the heck is it?
It's mainly to like open up the refresh interval longer, so the memory has time to respond to it, which results in better overall performance when it comes to doing benchmarks.
Okay.
But don't go that high. Normally I will just go with this value. Then when we're done with this, cache write latency, it already go to, oh, this is, I forgot the full name, but I always call it CWL. CWL is like, if you're, let's say, if I'm doing 30, you can go minus by 2. But usually if it's at low value like this, I'll just leave it on auto. And for the rest, this, you will have to tune it manually, depends on the stress test. Some, they will tell you, oh, it crashes at this part, so which part is not stable, you have to tune it from here. And aside from that, there are also things that you have to take care of. Oh, okay. So it's here. Sometimes you have to adjust some of the settings here. But it really depends if it really requires you to do that. Previously, I was going with like, where's the thing? Okay, the RTL. Back then, I go with enable. Turn around, don't have to deal with it first. Then, depends on the situation, sometimes I just leave SenseM disabled. But we don't do that right now. And that's all we can do at the moment.
So primary timings, you don't touch again?
Well,
or you want to optimize for 6000 first?
If you want to go tighter, 28 is what you can go for.
Okay.
But if you want to go a bit safer, 54 is the one you can go for. So 28, we can just give it a try first. Of course, if you go 28, you probably have to increase here lah. Okay, then that's pretty much it. We can go for now. Save.
So basically now it's optimizing to 6000.
I won't really call it optimized, because if you really want to properly optimize it, it will actually take longer time to do the stability test. So this is just like a demonstration of how I usually do for starters.
Good.
Because it's kind of like the safe preset I have in mind for quite some time. So this is what you can actually work on, because I usually work on different motherboard. So it will take a while for me to like get used to other motherboards BIOS, but by the end of the day, the concept is still the same. It's just like how you do programming. If you already know the logic, moving from one language to another language is just a matter of time for you to get used to the syntax. It's the same thing. So okay, right now you can see we are still on 6000.
Usually, what kind of memory test do you do? What utility?
Actually, a lot of utility you can go for. A few of them, I have Carhu memory test. I have testmem5. Testmem5 is free, you can download from Google for it, you can find it. And the config is available on overclock.net, which is a place where a lot of enthusiasts gathers and discuss about optimizing the system. Good place to hang out actually. Okay, the easy way is through Geekbench, but we don't have Geekbench here. So we can go with just ADA still works.
So we install ADA and HW Info. You say HW Info actually offers a lot of information.
Yes, it actually shows you the voltages you're using. Like here you can see how much system agent is pulling, your CPU, VDQ.
Then you can see all your RAM timing here as well.
Plenty of values you can refer to. And of course, the important thing, temperatures you can monitor from here instead of sticking a thermal probe there. And here you can also see the amount of voltage being supplied to the module itself.
Okay. So ADA stress test, what you're going to proceed with? Just system memory.
You can go with system memory and cache.
Okay. Why cache?
For your DRAM, it actually stores part of the system cache there. So with that cache being stored in the RAM, it allows your system to retrieve certain information from the disk faster.
So it's kind of like L1, L2, L3, but then your RAM is like even higher.
Level wise, yes. A long stretch of tests, because this thing will not run 100% stable in such a short time. So you have to do a never-ending cycle of running stress tests to see if it's stable. If it's not stable, you go back into the BIOS, see if you need to increase or decrease certain values.
So usually how long you leave this test running?
Usually I don't do AIDA, I do Carhu or TM5. So it will run for about an hour and 10 to 15 minutes, something around there. So anything happens in between, you won't know unless you sit there, stare at the screen and see if any errors pop up. So usually I will just leave it there. If I'm running multiple test bench at once, I will leave it there and proceed with the other one. So once in a while I can just take a look at the current system, see if it's stable or the test already crashed. If I'm not around the system, let's say system is running and I'm in the other room working on another system, I will use Carhu because they have a very loud notification or alert to tell you that it fails. So I just crank up the volume of the speaker to the max.
Oh my god.
If the error happens, it will be a loud beep.
Okay, become your alarm.
Yeah, something like that. So here we can see not much issue going on yet except for the CPU temperature. So that's really something your cooler is doing.
Yeah, it's not related to memory, so we won't touch that.
Not quite accurate,
yeah.
Because when your memory is running, your memory controller is doing its job as well. So that thing is inside your CPU. And having a good cooling for your CPU will also affect the process.
Most of what he said just now, I really don't understand quite much.
Okay, here's the thing. It's actually a lot of things to digest in such a short period of time. But to make it simple for you, it's actually a tedious process, which is why sometimes people just don't want to deal with these kind of things.
I don't want to deal with it. That's why I pass it to him.
And if you're really into this, it will take some time, but I would say it's fun.
Yeah, for him it's fun. He also does a lot of overclocking on the sides. Do you want to leave your HW board account info?
Nah, you don't have to go until that length. But the idea is like there are a lot of things you can do with your system, and especially for those people who bought components that can actually do more. I will encourage you to explore it a bit more, because it will really give your system that extra performance for free.
Yeah, technically you already got the hardware. It's just that you have to do this to unlock that potential. And I think you did one of the gaming tests recently, another video where we talk about
We have
all
another
of this
video.
stuff.
Yes.
Link at the top right corner there, because you usually won't think that optimizing your timing on your RAM will improve your FPS, but your low 1%, the loading times, those little stutters will be, well, not to say eliminated, but minimized.
It will improve your frame time performance.
Your frame time means you'll get better latency, more responsive gaming, especially useful for FPS games.
Okay, closing thoughts. For me, compared to what we have last time, we actually have two pairs of the XPG Lancer RGB, and I would say we don't have EXPO profile for our kits.
Yeah, EXPO is something relatively new last year, is it?
It's introduced when AMD launched their Zen 4 CPUs.
Last year.
Is it last year?
Or early this year, I don't remember. Sometime that time.
Last year, August, should be around there. I forgot. I was there. But for those of you who are looking for the newer memory kits, kits that has EXPO and XMP certified logo here is something you can look for, because it will be compatible on both Intel and AMD platform. And of course, for me, this kind of kits is good, as I switch memory kits in between Intel and AMD systems a lot. So to what?
Yeah.
We have to do that because of the test. So for kits like this, it's really useful as the settings are very close, and moving from one to another is actually very easy once you get a hold of the memory's behavior. Each and every kit will behave differently despite being the same model. So that's why some people are willing to go extra mile to win DRAM.
Also Silicon Lottery.
Yes. Some are good, some are average. I won't say bad. I haven't seen any terrible DDR5 yet.
I think bad RAMs are just totally scrap. I mean, it's not gonna be stable.
But as long as you're on kits like this that's being certified with both EXPO and XMP, you're good to go with both of the platform. And of course, try to optimize if you can.
Yeah.
So that's all for the video this time. If you like this video, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, if you like this kind of overclocking tutorial stuff, do let us know as well, because we might do more in the future.
Yeah, that's all.
Maybe live stream.
Yeah, maybe live stream, that would be much better, right? Everything
if we
can join in.
Immediately Q&A.
Q&A, yeah,
Oh,
immediate
yeah,
Q&A. A lot better, then people can see how you do stuff. Your train of thought, nothing gets cut out.
Oh, that's true.
Very
Okay.
candid.
You can ever see my live reaction on when error happens.
Live reaction, bruh. Okay, goodbye. Very long video.